Tonight on The Proof is Out There. Are UFOs hiding in the clouds?
Whatever's in this photo is clearly unnatural.
Is Bigfoot hiding in Ohio?
Tons of Bigfoot reports come out of this particular area.
Is there an ancient secret hiding on this beach?
I've never in my life seen anything like that.
And on this medieval sword?
You can almost feel the mystery emanating from this blade.
Around the globe are videos.
What are those things? It's moving.
Photos and sounds that defy explanation.
We don't know where they come from, who made them, or how they operate.
What are they?
Some sort of bizarre mutation.
What's exciting is nobody really knows.
Extraordinary claims need extraordinary proof.
I'm Tony Harris, and as a journalist for more than 30 years, I've followed the facts where they take me. Now I'm bringing that spirit of investigation to the world's strangest sounds and images. We'll analyze each one with top experts.
It's a credible case, it's a credible video.
And pass a verdict on what it is.
This video is clearly fake.
The Proof starts now. Good evening and welcome to The Proof is Out There. UFOs are frequently reported to be hiding in or near clouds. Case in point, last season we examined a 1971 photograph of an alleged metallic disc nestled in the clouds above Lake Cote, Costa Rica. Our next story suggests that this is an ongoing trend. February 14th, 2010, 45 miles southeast of Santiago, Chile. A family of 3 arrives near the El Yeso Reservoir for a Sunday picnic in the Andes. It's a beautiful day, so the mother takes 16 pictures of the valley and the sky up above with her digital camera. It isn't until they return home and review the photos that she realizes what she's captured. One of the photos shows the sun shining in the middle of bright white clouds. Above it, to the left, is a band of reddish clouds, and embedded within is a seemingly massive saucer-shaped object. The Chilean government reviewed the photos and shared them with Ted Rowe, who runs the National Aviation Reporting Center on Anomalous Phenomena, or NARCAP. He conducted an exhaustive analysis of these photographs.
The photograph contains an anomaly in the upper left-hand quadrant. You see the sun, you see a fluffy layer of cumulus clouds, and then behind them you see a layer of reddish clouds, and embedded in those clouds is what appears to be part of a disk.
The lines you're seeing across this photograph represent separate sections the NARCAP analyst used to record light levels in the photo and determine if the object was solid.
You want to understand how that light is distributed, looking at the red, green, and blue factors primarily, and studying the luminance of the object and of the environment.
Each section is given a number value, and when that data was compared to the surrounding area, here's what NARCAP concluded.
This study resolves that this is in fact an external anomaly. It does not appear to be inserted in the photograph, so we're left with an unidentified aerial phenomenon.
Journalist M.J. Banias notes that Chile is often mentioned as the country with the highest recorded number of UFO sightings. UFO enthusiasts have even claimed this lagoon that lies behind the mountains surrounding the El Yeso Reservoir could be a UFO landing strip.
We have countless other reports of UFO-shaped clouds all over Chile. There's reports out of Sobre, Metacunga, and the Chilean Patagonia. We also have a lot of reports of other UFO sightings around the El Yeso Reservoir.
As for the photos showing an alleged UFO in the clouds,
there's a theory out there that UFOs will hide in clouds or even generate clouds around them to stay hidden from humans.
In January 2023, a similar UFO-shaped cloud shocked residents of a city in Turkey. It hung in the skies for over an hour. What they captured here was a lenticular cloud, which forms when air blows across tall structures like a mountain range and causes vapor to condense in these stunning disc-like shapes. So could the object seen in our Chilean photo have a similar explanation, or is it a genuine UFO? First, are we actually looking at something in the sky or something in the camera? Astronomer and video effects designer Mark D'Antonio has a theory that starts with those strange colors seen in the sky.
These are cirrus clouds. They're ice crystals at high altitude that form in the atmosphere. And sometimes, the way the sun hits them, you get this beautiful prismatic effect. And that's what we're seeing here, in my view. Here's another thing. If we divide the image in half, we have the sun over here and the object over here, and the distance from the center of frame to that object is the same. The likelihood is very small that an object is going to be exactly the same distance away from the center of the frame as the sun, unless you're a lens flare.
Lens flares that can take the form of rings, spheres, starbursts, and other shapes are caused when bright light hits the camera lens, creating artifacts. But meteorologist Juan Hernandez respectfully disagrees with the lens flare theory.
Although I'm not a photography expert, it does not seem like we're looking at a camera artifact. We have this odd orange spot within the clouds. I'm not exactly sure why that would appear in that location. Oftentimes, camera artifacts might look like lines. In this case, we see a blob in the middle of the clouds.
Hernandez explores the notion that what we're seeing could be lenticular clouds, which are commonly mistaken for UFOs.
It's possible to have lenticular clouds in the Andes, but only under certain conditions. And those conditions were not met this specific day. We would be looking for more moisture in the air and faster flow in the wind speed.
For Hernandez, it's the reddish hue that's the biggest mystery.
The likely explanation towards a reddish hue to any cloud would be a setting sun. We obviously don't have a setting sun. It's the middle of the day.
Physicist Matthew Shadagas agrees with Hernandez that this thing is indeed a thing.
The photograph has been studied by UFO experts looking for mundane explanations like nearby aircraft, and they did come up empty for this day and time.
After carefully reviewing the NARCAP report, Shadagas agrees with their findings.
I agree with the conclusion of the NARCAP report, which suggested that this object is truly unidentified. So it's a genuine UFO. That doesn't mean it's an alien spacecraft. It simply means we are unable to identify what it is.
Well, there you have it. We're calling this a genuine UFO. While the Chilean government has yet to comment on the photo, NARCAP has released their 23-page case report to the public. And for more information, you can visit narcap.org. Now we move from the skies of South America to the forests of Middle America. When you think of the Bigfoot's natural habitat, you typically think of the Pacific Northwest. But the video we're about to show you suggests the big fella may have a Midwestern cousin prowling the forests of the Buckeye State. January 12th, 2020, we're in Salt Fork State Park, Ohio. Hiker Nathan Gray and a friend are armed with cameras and drones to document their trek through the woods when they make a startling discovery: the rib cages of several large animals nestled amongst the foliage.
Looks like they're ripped apart pretty good.
The duo continues to explore the area when suddenly they spot this: a creature, large and humanoid, walking through the trees unbothered by or unaware of their presence. Nathan manages to get his camera even closer for a better look. Zooming in, we can see the creature appears to be covered in some type of hair or fur, with lighter, almost white hair around the top of the head.
We had no idea what it was. It was just moseying on along like it didn't have a care in the world.
Field researcher Cliff Barrickman is not at all surprised about where this footage was filmed.
Tons of Bigfoot reports come out of this particular area. Southeastern Ohio, in the area of Salt Fork State Park, is a thick, wooded wilderness. The Appalachian Mountains are no joke, and Ohio is pushed right up against them. Anything out of Southeast Ohio should be looked at very, very closely.
However, in this particular region of the U.S., the locals don't use the name Bigfoot. They call it the Ohio Grassman, based on the large dens it supposedly makes of grass and from its diet, which reportedly consists mainly of tall grass from Ohio fields.
It's the Ohio Grassman.
One of the most infamous sightings was in 1978 when a local family claimed to be haunted by a grassman that was later nicknamed the Minerva Monster.
These people reported large, scary monsters. They would actually stalk them in their home. The family that was reporting these sightings believed that the Sasquatch killed their German Shepherd by snapping its neck. The police themselves came to the conclusion that this was in fact a credible report of something incredible happening.
That sort of violent behavior may explain the bones Nathan and his friend found in the woods. And while it doesn't explain the Grassman sightings from decades ago, Barrickman says there may be another possible explanation for what's in Nathan's video from 2020.
One other theory that's been put forth is that these animals are just normal animals that are being misidentified after the Zanesville massacre.
In 2011, an exotic animal collector released 50 animals into the Ohio woods, including Bengal tigers, lions, cougars, and even a baboon.
But one of the animals that was not killed is a baby grizzly bear. Could this animal here be a survivor of the Zanesville massacre?
The chaos in Zanesville was a catalyst for Ohio's exotic animal ownership laws that went into effect in 2014, which shut down any other potential tiger kings. So is what we're seeing in the video a grizzly, a grassman, or something else? Our experts are tracking the evidence. Wildlife biologist Stephanie Manka dismisses the idea this could be a surviving grizzly.
If this really were a grizzly bear, we would expect to have more reports, fecal samples, bear claw marks, some evidence that a bear is living in that area. And this scene looks really consistent with a human in a costume.
Let's focus on this thing's arms for a moment. Note that all apes have arms longer than their legs, enabling better quadruped movement and efficient brachiation, the ability to swing between trees. But according to anthropologist and Sasquatch expert Jeff Meldrum, we're not seeing anything like that here.
You can see the upper limb is barely to the crotch. That suggests human limb proportions. And the head is kind of large, more like a hood. It looks to me like someone in camo gear with a hoodie and insulated pants and heavy boots on.
Our verdict? It's a hoax. Though you have to give the guys credit for planting those animal bones. Nice try, fellas. The poet John Donne famously wrote, "No man is an island. But what if an island could move like a man?" Take a close look at this next clip. It's July 2021 near the Slingsby Channel in British Columbia, Canada. Storm chaser and explorer George Karunas is traveling in the area, documenting his adventures.
I was representing the Geographical Society of Canada on a boat trip that was traveling around the northern tip of Vancouver Island. It's very remote, nobody lives there, there's no roads, it's a wonderful piece of pristine wilderness.
As he makes his way along the channel, he comes across a small island that seems to have taken on a life of its own.
It was in the Naguato Rapids. It has some of the fastest tidal flow in the world, so the flow of the water changes direction several times a day. And while I'm filming, I'm focusing in on the waves and the rocks.
George's video shows a view of the channel with a small tree-covered islet in the middle. But while the boat appears to float along very slowly, the island rushes past it at an alarming clip.
The island appears to have broken loose and is traveling upstream against the current.
George posts his video online, and everyone who views it joins in on his confusion.
We know that islands don't move. They don't float. They're not boats. They're pieces of land that are sticking up out of the water. Why is this thing on the move?
But journalist Aaron McCarthy says it's not the only island reported to be in motion.
There's also El Ojo, or Island, in Argentina. It's almost perfectly circular, and it constantly moves and rotates. And according to some sources, locals believe that the circle within a circle is a representation of God on Earth. Other people theorize that is actually covering up a hidden underwater alien base. And that has led believers of this theory to say that that's proof that something otherworldly is at work here.
In addition to islands on the move, there are others that have seemingly just disappeared. Take the strange case of Bermeja, an island that used to be off the coast of Mexico.
Bermeja first began appearing on maps in 1539. But in the late 1990s, and as recently as 2009, when people were out there looking into drilling rights, it became really clear that Bermeja didn't actually exist. There's a conspiracy theory that says the United States or the CIA got rid of the island somehow, because if it existed, it would extend Mexico's territory.
The mysterious moving island George caught on camera is in the fearsome Nahuatl tidal rapids, which churn at an intense 16 knots. But could these tumultuous tides really be causing the island to move? Our experts weighed in. This video is so bizarre at face value that we asked forensic video analyst Michael Primo to examine if it's even real.
It doesn't appear to be something that was layered using like alpha channeling or green color keying. It is something that is in the scene. We can even verify through testing that this video came from that specific camera through sample CRP testing from the sensor. From what I've seen so far, this recording appears to be authentic.
So then, is it really possible for islands to move? NASA geologist Dr. Bob Anderson says yes.
There are a type of islands that we call tussocks. They're found down in South America where they're dominated by growth. And these plants become so intertwined with each other that they literally form a landmass with water underneath of them. They may not be stable in some areas to walk on, but they are literally an island that can float.
El Ojo is in the middle of marshland, so this is a likely explanation for that apparent landmass. But is George's Island, known as Turret Rock, also a tussock? Anderson says not so fast.
If you look at a boat or a ship going down the water, you're always going to have what's called a bow wave. The wave is going to come up and the boat is cutting through the water. What you see here is not a bow wave. It's actually a recessive wave. And what that means is that the water is literally coming around and going down here.
So if what we're seeing here isn't a wake, why does it look like this rocky mass is moving?
We have to realize that the observer is moving and the camera is moving. Therefore, this thing is an optical illusion. There are three things that you have to worry about. One is the background trees, two is the rock formation, and three is the fact that you yourself are moving.
Kaku says this effect is known as motion parallax.
Now, if you're in a car and you're overtaking another car, the freeway is because the observer is moving, and you have the illusion that the observer is stationary.
And as you can see in this video where the boat is stationary, the same island does not appear to move.
This parallax effect could trick the brain into thinking that something else is going on, because movement is where the mind focuses.
Our verdict? Turret Rock isn't actually moving. It just appears to be because of the motion parallax effect. As for the vanishing island of Bermeja, it likely spawned from a map-making error. But perhaps we'll never know if it really existed. Many cultures around the world have ancient myths and legends of tree-human hybrids. For example, the Jiminju of Japanese mythology is a tree that grows human heads as its fruit. Are such stories just myth, or could it actually be possible for a tree-human hybrid to exist? Before you answer, take a look at this. 2007, Java, Indonesia. American physician Anthony Gaspari travels almost 10,000 miles to meet and examine a new patient, a 35-year-old carpenter who goes by Day Day. The images you're about to see may be disturbing.
Really, the question that I had, because it was so dramatic and there was so much deformity, was this real or was it something that was staged?
These photographs are truly astonishing. This gentleman was given the name Tree Man because of the growths all over his hands and feet. They look like bark, essentially. These patches extend over 6 inches out from his fingers in all directions.
When Dr. Gaspari finally examines Day Day, he quickly realizes his condition is no hoax.
He had difficulty moving, and the first thing that he communicated to me was that he wanted to get better. And so we drew blood, we took specimens, and we brought it back to the United States to be analyzed.
Soon, the whole world shares the doctor's amazement. Wild speculation erupts around what we're actually seeing.
Some people on the internet speculated that this person was half tree, half human, like the Dryad mythology, where a spirit inhabits a tree and makes it move.
People also speculate if it's an infectious condition that could spread.
Some say that this growth reminds them of the fungus made popular in a recent television program. That fungus was based on cordyceps, which is a fungus that grows on and inside of its host and eventually takes over its nervous system and kind of takes control of the animal, turning them into a fungal animal hybrid.
There is certainly anecdotal evidence of humans playing host to plant life. In 2013, a 16-month-old girl in Beijing, China, had a fully developed dandelion growing in her ear that had to be surgically removed. But could some invasive species of vegetation or a fungus live off a person on such a massive scale? Let's see what our experts unearth. We start by addressing the wildest speculation that somehow Day-Day was becoming some sort of tree-human hybrid. Anthropologist Kathy Strain is familiar with the worldwide historical myths surrounding these humanoid plant creatures, but says it's a silly theory that contradicts science.
Plants live on carbon dioxide. They breathe it in and exhale oxygen. Humans are the reverse. We breathe in oxygen and exhale carbon dioxide, and those two cannot be together in the same organism. I do not believe that this photograph represents a true human-plant hybrid.
Physician Ed Hope thinks basic genetics supports Strain's opinion.
We share a staggering 50% of our genes with plants, but even this isn't enough for us to produce a hybrid. The animal with the closest common ancestor to humans is the chimpanzee, where we share 98.8% of our genes, and still this isn't enough to produce a hybrid.
So if it's not genetically possible for a person to transform into a plant-human hybrid like in folklore, could a disease or fungus like cordyceps infect a human like in TV shows?
You may have heard of cordyceps within popular science fiction shows, but thankfully for us, it only infects insects. Cordyceps can't grow much above 80 degrees, and our bodies at 97 to 99 degrees are just too hot for it.
Okay, but if it's not a fungus, could it be a plant growing on Day-Day, like that dandelion in the little girl's ear?
In order for tree bark to survive, it has to have a leaf coming off of it that can then take that sunlight for energy, and he has no root system that can go into the ground in order to get water. And so over time, it would die and fall off.
The mystery of Day-Day's condition is finally solved after Dr. Gaspari examines the samples taken back to his lab, putting the tree man myths to rest.
It's a wart virus infection caused by human papillomavirus, which was a result of a severe underlying immune deficiency.
Day-Day's tragic genetic condition is called Lewandowski-Lutz dysplasia.
Only 500 cases ever reported. Unfortunately, there is no known cure.
Our verdict, the rare disease Lewandowski-Lutz dysplasia. Even though there was no cure, surgeries did give Day-Day brief respites from his suffering. So many good things come in pairs. Ears, socks, but UFOs? Take a look at our next sighting, which has one loyal proof viewer seeing double. Memorial Day 2022, Lubbock, Texas. Insurance agent Blake Bednars is lounging by the pool with his family when he spots something odd. Or more specifically, two somethings flying in the sky above his house. It prompts him to begin recording on his smartphone.
These were unlike anything I've ever seen before. They made no sound whatsoever.
Look closely. The objects appear to fly in perfect formation, at a very tight distance to one another. They coordinate every turn, seeming to anticipate one another's changes.
What's strange is no one said bird. That never came to anyone's mind because of the sheer size. In my opinion, the two objects were about the size of a small Cessna aircraft.
Lubbock, Texas is no stranger to heavy air traffic, both identified and unidentified. Author Amy Teitel explains Lubbock's rich UFO history.
This sighting is happening in the exact same location as one of the most famous UAP sightings in history. The 1951 Lubbock Lights, wherein a large V formation of individual orbs of lights was seen over Lubbock, Texas. These lights were also seen by scientists at the Texas Technical College. They all reported seeing somewhere between 15 and 30 lights floating in the sky in a V-shaped formation.
Another fact to bear in mind, the area is nearby 3 military bases.
Lubbock is very close to multiple military bases in Clovis, Wichita Falls, and Abilene. So it's very possible that this is something that originated from one of those military bases.
Blake is clearly a dogged UFO investigator. In fact, he said he later tried to search for the objects he saw on public flight radar sites, but he came up empty-handed. Will our experts? Let's start with the biggest question. Could Blake have captured an alien spacecraft? Aviation expert Tim McMillan has strong thoughts.
You see wings on both objects. What that tells us is, A, we can rule out spacecraft. Airplanes are designed to fly within the Earth's atmosphere by using gravity and using air currents to generate lift. Now, in the vacuum of space, you don't need wings.
Could it be a military plane then? Online speculation of Blake's footage noted similarities to the T-6 Texan II. It's a plane often used in Air Force training. As you can see by this cockpit footage, instructors use the T-6 to help new pilots get over the fear of flying very close in combat formation. But a T-6 should show up on radar, and remember, Blake's radar data research turned up a whole lot of nada. And McMillan says something else is missing too.
A T-6 is a World War II era propeller plane that is still in use to this day. That wouldn't be what we're looking at because we don't see the tail stabilizers of that aircraft. We're just missing that really key component.
So if it's not a spacecraft and not a typical military fighter, can it just be a pair of large birds soaring, as more than a few online critics insist?
Large birds are very likely what we're seeing here. If you look very closely throughout the video, there are certain portions where you can actually see what appears to be the wings dip and flap slightly, especially towards the corners.
Now consider this. In this footage of soaring white pelicans, you'll see that they do soar in a similar manner to Blake's objects. But notice how often they flap compared to Blake's footage. And when they do flap, it's never with just one wing the way Blake's objects appear to. Plus, the wings on Blake's objects seem extremely rigid. It's this rigidity that has astronomer and video analyst Mark D'Antonio doubting the bird theory.
If those wings don't move, it's possible that we're looking at a pair of drones flying in formation. There is a certain point when they turn to the side. Look where the wings are relative to the back of the body. The wings seem to be further back, and the front seems to be extended. That reminds me of an aircraft rather than a bird. These are definitely human-made. And I know that the military experiments with bird-shaped drones. I've seen them. So this is a possibility.
Our verdict? Bird-shaped drones. We're going to go with D'Antonio. The motion of the craft is what does it. But did we witness some sort of brand new technology? According to reports, scientists are looking into transforming the bodies of deceased birds into actual flapping wing drones that might enable new ways of spying for military purposes. If you think you've seen one, let us know. Ancient tribes would frequently use animal horns as a way to frighten the enemy. But what's truly frightening about our next video is imagining what type of creature could have been attached to a monstrous horn found on a beach. May 25th, 2020, Sudbrook, Wales. It's low tide on Black Rock Beach, and two net fishermen, Martin and Richard Morgan, are wandering after some unusual weekend storms. All of a sudden, they discover something they believe to be of great importance. Martin pulls out his camera and records this.
We've spotted this poking out of the sand. Pull it out, Rich, see what it is.
Richard begins to gently dig the object from the earth.
Bone, yeah, definitely bone. I'll loose it up, Rich. Suspense is killing me. Look at the size of it. It's a bloody mammoth tusk. I've never in my life seen anything like that. That's thousands of years old.
Mythology is filled with tales of horned creatures, from the Greek Minotaur to the Japanese Oni. But field researcher Ken Gerhardt points to one that is specific to this region.
In terms of the United Kingdom, a mythological creature that a lot of people haven't heard of is called the centaur, or Yale, first described by the ancient Roman naturalist Pliny the Elder. He said the Yale was about as large as a horse, black in color, but it had tusks like a wild boar, in addition to very large horns that it could actually rotate independently of each other.
The Yale was used as a symbolic totem of prestige, both for the British royal family and the university that is named after it. And the creatures were believed to perform swashbuckling duels against one another with their rotating horns. Gerhardt suggests another theory, that perhaps we are looking at a long-lost relic of the Ice Age.
We can't discount the possibility that this is the remains of some ancient Pleistocene megafaunal animal, such as a woolly mammoth.
In February of 2022, a plethora of animal bones was discovered on a cave system in Devon, England, just several hours south from where this horn was found. Many researchers theorize that between 30 to 60,000 years ago, there was a sinkhole or pit that trapped unsuspecting animals and dropped them into this cave. The groundbreaking discovery included the bones of a woolly mammoth.
Just mere miles from where this mystery horn was found, there's actually an extensive cave system known as Clearwell Caves. So I think there's a strong possibility that this could be some type of mammoth tusk that was in a cave system and then somehow washed up and was rediscovered just a few miles away.
While the vast majority of woolly mammoths died at the end of the Pleistocene era, there was still a small number that actually stuck around for a few thousand years longer, sharing the earth with human beings. In fact, while King Tut ruled Egypt, mammoths were still roaming around several isolated sections of the globe. Let's see if our experts think this found object could have belonged to one of them. Biologist Floyd Hayes reveals that a mammoth tusk ending up in this muddy terrain is certainly a possibility. He points to the history of the sunken region known as Doggerland.
Doggerland was an area that once connected the British Islands with the mainland of Europe. There were several large mammals that roamed across the British Islands to Eurasia, and one of them was the woolly mammoth. But as the glaciers melted, the sea levels rose, and then there was a tsunami that eroded away the final remnants of Doggerland.
So are we looking at an actual tusk from a prehistoric mammoth that made the journey over what is now the North Sea? Take another look at the evidence.
Mammoth tusks come from the upper incisors, and they normally grow about 8 to 14 feet long. This horn's only about 27 inches long, so it's a little bit too short and bent to be a mammoth.
According to Hayes, the curvature suggests that this couldn't even be a fragment of a much larger mammoth tusk. So what about the mythical Yale? Anthropologist Kathy Strain digs in.
The Yale was known to have these horns that could spin in multiple directions. A horn is bone, and it's attached to your skull. For a bone to move, it has to have a joint. And what you can see at the end of this horn is that it broke off of the skull because it's fully bone and it does not have the ability to move. There is no creature that we know of, either alive or through fossilization, that can have movable horns.
If this isn't a mammoth tusk or a horn from a mythical Yale, we find ourselves on the horns of a dilemma. Just what is this thing?
What I think we are seeing is the horn of an auroch that went extinct back in the 1600s. It was a large cattle that occupied the UK for thousands of years and then went extinct.
The auroch was a colossal, aggressive, and potentially dangerous animal that averaged around 6 feet in height and weighed more than 3,000 pounds, with horns that could grow up to 5 feet in length from tip to tip.
Like many of the megafauna, the auroch went extinct due to the hands of humans. Their horns were very prized as drinking vessels, and so they were often hunted just for their horns and not their meat. It's still a great find, and there's very few of them known, so we're happy that they were able to find this horn.
Our verdict, an all-rock horn. The size and location are what nailed it. It seems unbelievable that such a large creature lived alongside humanity for so long. In fact, the auroch was even used to battle gladiators in the Roman Colosseum. I bet the prestigious Yale never got its hands that dirty. We love a good magical sword. Arthur's Excalibur, Bilbo Baggins' Sting, Harry Potter's Sword of Gryffindor. Now, the mysterious sword in our next story doesn't seem to have magical powers, but maybe that's just because no one can read what's inscribed on it. 1825, Lincolnshire, England. An ancient weapon is discovered in the bottom of River Witham. The sword isn't just cool, it's cool AF. On one side is a mysterious inscription made by gold wire that has been inlaid into the steel with this strange group of letters. What do they mean? The British Library, where the sword resides, has been so puzzled by the inscription, it's requested help in cracking the seemingly incomprehensible code.
The sword itself is very impressive. It has a gold inlay, which is incredibly rare. But the Museum of London, with all the resources and the people that they've had to study it, still, nobody knows exactly what it says.
Journalist Eric Grunhauser takes a stab at some theories that have been offered, starting with the famous Knights Templar.
The Knights Templar, in their distinctive white mantles and red cross, were one of the most fearsome fighting forces of the Crusades.
Mysterious stories surrounding the Knights Templar continue to this day. Chief among them, the hotly contested claim that their mission was to protect the Holy Grail and the alleged bloodline of Jesus Christ. Many speculate that they communicated in their own secret code known as the Templar Cipher.
Is this possibly code left over from the Knights Templar? Or maybe even an incantation meant to imbue the blade and its user with unearthly powers?
But another theory says this sword may go back much further.
According to the legends, there was a prince named Siegfried, or Sigurd, who lived near the Rhine River in Germany. And he needed to slay the dragon Fafnir. And Sigurd needed a mythic blade and found it in the sword named Gram. With Gram, Sigurd slayed Fafnir and bathed in the dragon's blood, making himself invincible.
Siegfried and Sigurd are names for the same hero who shows up in both Germanic and Norse tales from old. The difference with Sigurd, however, is that he may have actually been real.
The legends of Sigurd may have been based on real historical figures, specifically kings from the Merovingian dynasty. Researchers have said that the sword was actually forged in Germany. So could this be the legendary Gram?
Germany, like much of North and Central Europe, was often a mishmash of ethnicities that invaded and intermingled with each other for centuries. The Norsemen were all over the place, and many stashes of weapons that they left behind have been discovered all over the UK, which could explain how such a sword ended up here.
Some think that the inscription was meant to enchant the blade and give power to both the blade itself and its user.
The Norse Vikings were big believers in this, frequently carving the runic letter for TR, the Norse god of war, onto their swords and shields for a supposed magical assist on the battleground. The Germanic people are thought to have originated from a small area of Scandinavia during the 4th century BC. So the Norse Vikings were technically Germanic and even share some mythologies. Let's see if our experts can determine if this sword is part of a myth, a legend, or none of the above. Archaeologist and anthropologist Kathy Strange shoots down the Norse mythology theory by pointing to one particular symbol that would never have appeared on Sigurd's sword, Gram.
There are symbols of crosses on the sword, and those symbols are definitely Christian. However, the Vikings practiced polytheism, meaning they worshiped many gods. Christianity worshipped one god. And so because of the Christian symbols that are on the sword, we can safely rule out that this is Gram, the well-known sword.
Archaeologist Ed Barnhart agrees with Strain's observation that this inscription is most certainly reflective of Christian faith.
It's a series of Latin characters that don't spell out a single word. Instead, they are the initials of a much longer statement. The first two letters are ND, which is probably Nostros Domini, which is our Lord. The next three are XO. X, that meant the Holy Trinity. So the first few letters do seem like the opening of a Christian prayer.
So could this sword be associated with a Knights Templar? Barnhart believes so.
The inscription is bracketed by two Christian crosses of very specific design, the very cross of the Knights Templar, which says that either it was a gift from the Knights Templar or it was used by Knights Templar themselves.
And as for those inscriptions giving the sword magic powers,
by the time we come into Christianity's dominance of Europe, they're now using that same thing, but it's the magical power of God inscribed on the sword in the language of the day, which was Latin. And the theory is that by throwing them into the river, they were returning them back to the magical powers of God and nature.
Our verdict, based on the information our experts provided, we're going with Templar Knight Sword. But since it was personally crafted for its wielder, we may never know what the inscription was fully meant to say, or if it did indeed protect its owner with powers from God. And that's our show for tonight. If you know of any other medieval mysteries we should investigate, let us know. And prithee rememberest to keep thine cameras rolling.